Captain Jake Morrison floated in the command chair of the UEF Intrepid, watching the stars through the main viewport. The Deep Space Patrol had been quiet for 3 weeks now. Nothing but empty space and distant suns. Jake liked it that way. Quiet meant safe. Safe meant his crew would go home to their families. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at the communications station, monitoring the standard channels. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes that still held excitement about space travel. Most of the crew had lost that wonder years ago, but Amy still smiled when she saw something new among the stars. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Amy said, her voice cutting through the bridge's soft hum. "Energy readings at the edge of sensor range. It's big, sir. Really big." Jake pushed himself over to her station. The screen showed patterns of energy that made no sense. The readings were off the charts, stronger than anything human technology could produce. Could be a solar flare from that system, he suggested, though he didn't believe it himself. "No." Sir, Amy shook her head. "The pattern is too regular, too organized. This looks like ship engines. But the power output is impossible." Engineer Pete Williams looked up from his console. "Captain, if these readings are right, we're looking at something with the power of a small star." "Oh, no way that's natural." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In 30 years of space travel, he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming danger. "Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have unknown contacts at coordinates ... double quotes." He paused as the readings suddenly spiked. "Never mind, they're moving fast." The main screen lit up. With new contacts, dozens of them, then hundreds. Each one was massive, larger than Earth's biggest space stations. They moved in perfect formation, like a military fleet. But their technology was clearly beyond anything humans had ever built. Captain Pete's voice was tight with worry. "They're accelerating toward us. Current speed is, this can't be right. They're going faster than light, but not in hyperspace. They're doing it in normal space." Jake had seen enough. Like battle stations. "Amy, get that message to Earth now. Emergency priority." Amy's fingers flew over her controls. "Message sent, Captain." "But sir, at this distance, it will take 4 hours. To reach Earth?" The alien ships were beautiful in a terrible way. Their hulls were smooth and silver, like liquid metal shaped by an artist's hand. They moved without any visible thrust, gliding through space as if the laws of physics didn't apply to them. Energy crackled around their edges, creating patterns of light that hurt to look at directly. "Captain, they're scanning us," Pete reported. "Some kind of energy beam. It's going right through our shields like they're not even there." Jake grabbed the communications controls. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Morrison of the United Earth Federation ship, Intrepid. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came immediately, but not through normal communications. The words appeared directly in their minds, speaking in perfect English with a voice like cold metal. "Primitive species. You interest us. We are the Zephrian Empire, rulers of 3 galaxies. We have grown tired of easy victories. You will provide us with entertainment." Jake felt his blood turn to ice. "We are peaceful explorers. We mean no harm to your people." "Harm?" The mental voice seemed amused. "You misunderstand. We do not fear harm from you. We seek the pleasure of hunting worthy prey. Your species shows potential for sport." The largest of the alien ships moved closer. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Intrepid. Its hull opened like a flower, revealing weapons that glowed with deadly energy. But the weapons didn't fire. Instead, smaller ships emerged from the opening, surrounding the human vessel. "Your ship is now disabled," the voice continued. "Do not attempt to resist. We wish to study you before the hunt begins." Jake looked at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. These were good people, men and women who had families waiting for them back on Earth. He had to try to protect them. "Listen, to me," he said quietly, "whatever they want, we give it to them. Our job now is to survive and get word back to Earth." The alien ships moved with impossible precision. Energy beams struck the Intrepid, but instead of destroying it, they seemed to shut down its systems one by one. The engines went dead first, then the weapons, then life support. But the ship itself remained intact. Fascinating, the mental voice observed. Your technology is crude, but your defensive systems show creativity. You adapt quickly to new threats. This confirms our assessment. You will provide adequate support.
Act through the viewport. Jake could see the aliens' boarding craft approaching.
They were small, elegant vessels that moved like living things. As they attached to the Intrepid's hull, Jake heard the sound of cutting tools working through the metal. "Amy," he whispered, "did your message get through?" She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes, sir. Earth Command will know something happened to us." The aliens that entered the ship were tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Their eyes were large and dark, showing no emotion. They moved with fluid grace, like dancers or predators. Their leader stepped forward, and Jake knew without being told that this was someone important. "I am War Prime Zephr, the alien," said this time, speaking aloud. His voice was musical, but cold. "I lead the hunting fleets of the Zephrian Empire. We have traveled far to find you, humans of Earth." "What do you want from us?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Zephr tilted his head, studying Jake like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "We want nothing from you. We want to hunt you. Your species has shown qualities that intrigue us. Fight among yourselves constantly, yet you also cooperate when threatened. You are violent, yet you create beauty. You are weak, yet you refuse to surrender. These contradictions make you perfect prey." "We're not animals to be hunted," Jake said, anger overcoming his fear. "All species are animals," Zephr replied. "Some are predators, some are prey. We are the ultimate predators. You are the most promising prey we have found in centuries. We will give your species one of your years to prepare. Then we will return to begin the great hunt." Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. This wasn't just about his crew anymore. This was about the entire human race. Why give us time to prepare? Why not just attack now? Zephr's expression might have been a smile, because a hunt is no fun if the prey cannot fight back. "We want you to be ready. We want you to give us the challenge we have been seeking. Make your weapons stronger. Build your defenses higher. Gather your armies. It will make no difference in the end, but it will make the hunt more interesting." The aliens began taking detailed scans of the human crew, studying their biology, their equipment, their reactions. They seemed particularly interested in how humans worked together under stress. Jake watched them make notes on devices that looked like living crystal. "Your message to Earth was allowed to transmit," Zephr said casually. "We want your species to know what is coming. Fear will make you fight harder. Desperation will make you more creative. We look forward to seeing what you can accomplish when your survival depends on it." As the aliens prepared to leave, taking several crew members with them as samples, Amy managed to send one final transmission to Earth. Her message was brief but clear. "They're not here to talk. They're here to hunt. Prepare for war. You're good." Ships departed as suddenly as they had arrived, leaving the disabled Intrepid floating in space. Jake and his remaining crew were rescued 3 days later by an Earth patrol ship. But by then, the entire human race knew what was coming. The hunters had found their prey. The question now was whether humanity would be ready for the greatest challenge it had ever faced. Admiral Carl Hayes sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the Pentagon. The rescued crew of the Intrepid had been debriefed dozens of times, but their story never changed. Earth had 1 year before the aliens returned to hunt humanity. Like wild animals, the room was packed with world leaders, military commanders, and scientists. Everyone was talking at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of fear and anger. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others demanded they fight. With everything they had, a few suggested trying to hide or evacuate the planet. "Quiet," Carl shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. "Fighting among ourselves won't solve anything. We need to think clearly about this." President Johnson of the United States leaned. "Forward, Admiral. What are our chances in a straight fight?" Carl looked at the data on his tablet. The numbers were not encouraging. Based on what Captain Morrison observed, we're facing technology that's centuries ahead of ours. They're smallest. Ships are more powerful than our biggest battleships. A direct military confrontation would be suicide. So we surrender? Asked General Martinez from the European Federation. No, Carl said firmly. We prepare, but not the way they expect us to. Dr. Linda Brooks had been quiet during the meeting. Studying the alien technology samples that the Zepharians had left behind, she was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but her mind was sharp as a knife. She had spent 40 years studying military tactics and alien biology, preparing for a day she had hoped would never come. Admiral Linda said, raising her hand, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from their ships. There's something interesting here. Carl nodded for her to continue. Their shields work by creating a barrier of pure energy. It's incredibly strong, but it has a weakness. The shield generators need to maintain a specific frequency to keep the barrier stable. If we can disrupt that frequency, she paused, checking her notes, we might be able to overload their defenses. How? Asked Dr. Chen from the Asian Coalition. Sound waves, Linda replied. Not regular sound, but specific frequencies transmitted through their own energy fields. It would be like using their strength against them. Engineer Pete Williams, who had been brought in as a technical advisor, spoke up. The problem is getting close enough to use sonic weapons. Their ships can destroy us from thousands of miles away. Linda smiled for the first time since the meeting began. That's where we get creative. They're expecting us to build bigger weapons. And stronger shields? What if we don't? Carl studied her face. Linda had that look she got when she was planning something dangerous. What are you thinking? They want to hunt, Linda said. They want us to fight back. But they also want to feel superior. What if we let them think they're winning while we prepare something they'll never see coming? The meeting continued for hours, but gradually a plan began to form. It was risky, possibly insane, but it was their only chance. They would give the aliens exactly what they wanted to see. A desperate humanity building obvious defenses and preparing for war. But underneath that show, they would prepare something else entirely. Commander Lisa Johnson was put in charge of the civilian evacuation program. At least that's what everyone was supposed to think. In reality, she was organizing something much more dangerous. Instead of moving people to safety, she was teaching them to fight. Lisa stood in a school gymnasium in downtown Chicago, dressing a group of teachers, shop owners, and office workers. They looked scared, which was normal. They also looked angry, which was exactly what she needed. The aliens think we're weak, she told them. They think we'll panic and run when they come back. They're wrong. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten human families. An elderly man in the front row raised his hand. Commander, we're not soldiers. We don't know how to fight aliens with super weapons. Lisa smiled. You don't need to be soldiers. You need to be human. Humans are the most adaptable species on this planet. We survive in deserts, in frozen wastelands, in the deepest jungles. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. We're going to survive this too. She walked to a table covered with everyday items, kitchen knives, cleaning chemicals, electronic devices, even children's toys. Everything here can be a weapon if you know how to use it. The aliens have advanced technology, but they don't understand human creativity. They don't understand that we can turn anything into a tool for survival. Over the following months, similar meetings happened in every city around the world. People learned to make explosives from household chemicals. They learned to modify electronics into communication devices and surveillance equipment. They learned to turn their neighborhoods into fortresses that looked like ordinary streets. Dr. Alex Thompson worked in a hidden laboratory beneath the ruins of an old factory. The government had told everyone the building was being demolished, but in reality, it was being converted into a research facility. Alex was working on Linda's frequency weapon idea, trying to turn it into something that could actually be used in battle. The mathematics are incredible, Alex told his assistant, Maria Santos. These aliens have basically given us the key to defeating them. Their own technology contains the seed of their destruction. Maria looked at the complex equations covering the walls. Will it work? It has to work, Alex replied. But we need to get the frequency exactly right. One mistake, and we'll just make them angry. Meanwhile, engineer Pete Williams was working on a different kind of project. In shipyards around the world, workers were building what looked like ordinary civilian vessels. Cargo ships, passenger liners, even luxury yachts. But hidden within their hulls were weapon systems and engines that pushed the limits of human technology. The aliens will scan these ships, Pete explained to his team. They'll see exactly what we want them to see. Desperate humans trying to escape in whatever ships they can find. They won't look deeper. They won't realize that every evacuation ship is actually a weapon waiting to be activated. Part of the plan was happening in secret military bases around the world. Selected soldiers were being trained for a mission that officially didn't exist. They were learning to use captured alien technology to move through alien ships and to survive in environments that would kill normal humans. Sergeant Kelly Murphy was one of these soldiers. She had volunteered for the program after learning that her hometown was likely to be one of the first targets in the alien hunt. Kelly was small and fast, with a talent for getting into places where she didn't belong. The aliens think they understand us, her instructor, Colonel Davis, told the group. They've studied our military tactics, our weapons, our technology, but they haven't studied our spirit. They don't understand that humans fight hardest when everything seems hopeless. Kelly nodded, checking her equipment. The gear looked like standard military supplies, but every item had been modified with alien technology. Her rifle could punch through energy shields, her armor could deflect energy weapons, her communications device could hack into alien networks. Remember, Colonel Davis continued, when they come back, they'll be expecting resistance. They'll be ready for our armies, our ships, our obvious weapons. They won't be ready for what we really have planned. As the months passed, the world watched humanity prepare for war. News reports showed the construction of orbital defense platforms, the mobilization of military forces, and the desperate attempts to build better weapons. The aliens, watching from their distant ships, saw exactly what they expected to see: a primitive species making futile preparations for a hopeless battle. But they didn't see the real preparation. They didn't see the ordinary people learning to fight with extraordinary determination. They didn't see the scientists discovering weaknesses in seemingly perfect alien technology. They didn't see the engineers building weapons, disguised as civilian vessels. Most importantly, they didn't see the change happening in the human heart. Fear was being replaced by anger. Desperation was being replaced by determination. The aliens wanted to hunt humanity, but they had made a crucial mistake. They had given their prey time to prepare. And humans were very good at preparation. Captain Jake Morrison, recovered from his ordeal and now serving as a military advisor, stood on the observation deck of the secret command center. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the lights of the city below. People were going about their daily lives, but everyone knew what was coming. They wanted a challenge, Jake said to himself, remembering the alien War Prime's words. They're going to get one. The year was almost over. Soon the Zephyrian Empire would return to begin their great hunt. They were expecting to find a frightened, poorly prepared species, ready to be harvested like animals. Instead, they would find something they had never encountered before, an entire planet that had transformed itself into a weapon, wielded by a species that refused to die quietly. The hunt was about to begin, but the aliens had made a fatal error. They had forgotten that the most dangerous prey was the kind that fought back. The alien ships appeared in Earth's sky exactly 1 year after their first visit. War Prime Zephr stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the blue planet turn slowly below him. The sight filled him with anticipation. Finally, after centuries of boring conquests, he would have a proper hunt. Report, he commanded his tactical officer. The humans have built orbital defense platforms around their planet, the officer replied. Approximately 50 stations armed with primitive energy weapons and missile systems. They also have a fleet of military vessels positioned at strategic points. Zephr studied the tactical display. The human defenses looked impressive for such a primitive species, but they were still laughably weak compared to Zephrian technology. How long to eliminate their defenses? Estimated time: 4 hours for complete destruction of all military assets. Excellent. Begin the attack. I want to see how they fight before we start the real hunt. The Zephrian fleet moved into attack formation. 200 warships spread out across space, their elegant hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Each ship was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The lead ships fired first, sending beams of pure energy toward the human orbital stations. Captain Danny Rodriguez watched from the command center of Defense Station Alpha as the alien weapons struck. Station shields flared and died. Almost instantly, emergency alarms blared throughout the facility as systems failed one by one. All stations. This is Alpha Command. Danny broadcast on the emergency frequency. We're taking heavy damage. Implement Protocol 7 immediately. Protocol 7 was the signal everyone had been waiting for. Around the world, the real war began. The orbital defense stations were never meant to win the battle. They were meant to look important while they died. As the aliens destroyed them one by one, they focused all their attention on the obvious targets. They didn't notice the small objects separating from the dying stations. Objects that looked like debris, but were actually something much more dangerous. Dr. Alex Thompson watched the alien attack from his hidden laboratory. Frequency weapons were ready, but they needed to be close to the alien ships to work. The fake debris from the defense stations was drifting toward the enemy fleet, carrying the sonic devices that would turn the aliens' own shields against them. Signal strength is good, Alex reported to his team. The devices are getting into position. We'll have one chance at this. Sergeant Kelly Murphy crouched in the ruins of downtown New York, watching alien landing craft descend from the sky. The Zephrians had begun their ground assault, sending troops to secure major population centers. What they didn't know was that every human civilian had been preparing for this moment. Kelly spoke into her radio. All units, the hunters are landing. Show them what human prey looks like. The first alien soldiers to exit their landing craft expected to find terrified humans running in panic. Instead, they found empty streets that suddenly erupted in violence. Explosions came from every direction. Sniper fire came from windows and rooftops. The very ground beneath their feet was booby-trapped with devices made from common household items. War Prime Zephr watched the tactical reports with growing surprise. The humans were supposed to be easy prey, but they were fighting back with unexpected skill. Ground forces were taking casualties, something that hadn't happened in centuries of hunting. Status report, he demanded. The humans are using guerrilla tactics, his tactical officer replied. They're fighting from buildings, sewers, and underground tunnels. Every structure appears to be fortified. We're facing resistance from what? Seems to be the entire civilian population. Zephr felt a flicker of something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Uncertainty. How many human military units are we facing? That's the problem, War Prime. Can't tell the difference between their military and civilian forces. They all seem to be fighting with equal skill and determination. In Chicago, Lisa Johnson coordinated the civilian resistance from a command center built inside an old subway tunnel. The evacuation centers she had supposedly organized were actually weapons caches and training facilities. Every neighborhood had been turned into a fortress defended by ordinary people who had learned to fight like soldiers. North Sector is holding, reported a voice on the radio. The aliens are having trouble with the Murphy family's hardware store. They've turned it into a fortress. Lisa smiled grimly. The Murphy family weren't soldiers, but they knew their neighborhood better than any alien invader. They had spent months preparing, turning their store into a deadly maze of traps and hidden weapons. The aliens might have superior technology, but they were fighting on human ground now. The real surprise came when the aliens tried to retreat to their ships. They discovered that the humans hadn't just been preparing ground defenses, hidden among the wreckage of the orbital stations. Dr. Alex Thompson's frequency weapons activated all at once. The sonic devices sent carefully tuned sound waves through the aliens' own energy fields. The waves hit the shield generators at exactly the right frequency, causing them to overload and fail. One by one, the mighty Zephrian warships found themselves defenseless. Impossible, War Prime Zephr shouted, as his flagship's shields flickered and died. How are they doing this? They're using our own energy signatures against us. The sound waves are traveling through our shield matrix and disrupting the frequency generators. Before Zephr could respond, the second part of humanity's plan revealed itself. The civilian ships that had been evacuating refugees suddenly changed course. Their hulls opened to reveal weapons that no human ship should have been able to carry to engineer Pete. Williams watched from the bridge of what looked like an ordinary cargo vessel. In reality, it was one of the most advanced warships ever built, disguised as a harmless civilian transport. All around Earth, similar ships were throwing off their disguises and revealing their true nature. All go ships, this is Cargo 7. Pete broadcast on the hidden military frequency. The aliens have lost their shields. Begin the counterattack. The Ghost Fleet attacked with weapons that the aliens hadn't expected humans to possess. Sonic cannons that could shatter alien hull material. Energy weapons powered by modified alien technology. Most importantly, they had speed. The civilian ships had been built for evacuation, which meant they were designed to run fast and far. Now they used that speed to dart between the larger alien vessels, striking and retreating before the enemy could respond. Zephr Prime Zephr realized with growing horror that his hunting fleet was being hunted. The humans had turned the tables completely. Ships were defenseless. His ground forces were trapped in urban warfare they couldn't win. And his prey had become predators. Recall all ground forces, he ordered. Prepare for emergency retreat. But the humans had anticipated this move as well. As the alien landing craft tried to return to their ships, they found the sky filled with human fighters. Not the military jets the aliens had been expecting, but civilian aircraft modified with alien weapons. Crop dusters, news helicopters, even small private planes had been turned into deadly interceptors. Captain Jake Morrison flew one of these modified aircraft, his heart pounding with the thrill of revenge. The aliens had captured his ship and his crew a year ago, studying them like laboratory animals. Now it was his turn to do the hunting. This is for the crew of the Intrepid, he said as he fired his alien-powered weapons at an enemy transport. The shot punched through the craft's hull like paper, sending it spinning toward the ground in flames. The battle that was supposed to last weeks was over in hours. The mighty Zephrian hunting fleet, which had conquered 3 galaxies, was being systematically destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive prey. Their advanced technology had been turned against them. Their tactical superiority had been negated by human creativity and determination as the sun set over Earth. Zephr Prime Zephr found himself in an escape pod, fleeing toward the edge of the solar system. His entire fleet was gone, destroyed, or captured. His ground forces were either dead or trapped on a planet that had become their prison. He activated his emergency communicator and sent a message to the Zephrian Empire. This is Zephr Prime Zephr. The hunt has failed. The humans are not prey. They are ... something else, something dangerous. Do not engage them. Do not underestimate them. They are... The message was cut off as human interceptors caught his escape pod. The last thing Zephr saw was a human pilot looking at him through his cockpit window, smiling with cold satisfaction. The great hunt was over. The hunters had become the hunted. But for humanity, this was just the beginning. 3 months after the failed invasion, the Zephrian Empire still couldn't believe what had happened. Their greatest hunting fleet had been destroyed by a species they had considered primitive prey. Emergency meetings were being held across. Their 3 galaxy empire as leaders tried to understand how such a disaster was possible. High Commander Veltar stood before the Imperial Council on the capital world of Zephr Prime. His usually calm demeanor was shattered, his elegant features twisted with concern. The humans have captured 47 of our warships intact, he reported. Our ground forces on Earth have either been eliminated or taken prisoner. Worst of all, we've lost all contact with Zephr Prime Zephr. Council leader Mordith leaned forward in his crystalline throne. How is this possible? Our technology is superior to theirs by thousands of years. That may be the problem, Veltar replied. We gave them a year to study our technology. They learned to use our own weapons against us. But more than that, they showed an adaptability we didn't expect. It turned their entire planet into a weapon. On Earth, the captured Zephrian ships were being studied in secret facilities around the world. Dr. Alex Thompson walked through the corridors of one such vessel, marveling at the alien engineering. The ship was beautiful, but more importantly, it was teachable. Human engineers were learning to not just use the alien technology, but to improve it. The power systems are incredible, Alex told his assistant, Maria Santos. They're using quantum energy in ways we never imagined. But they've made their technology too perfect, too standardized. Every ship is exactly the same, which means every ship has exactly the same weaknesses. Maria nodded, taking notes on her tablet. What about the weapons systems? That's the interesting part, Alex smiled. Their weapons are designed to fight other Zephrians they've never had to deal with. An enemy that thinks differently. We can modify these systems to be far more effective than the originals. The real prize was hidden deep inside the captured flagship. Chief Engineer Ryan Davis had been presumed dead after the first alien attack a year ago. In reality, he had been captured and taken aboard the enemy vessel. But instead of being studied like a laboratory animal, Ryan had done something the aliens never expected. He had learned their technology and begun sabotaging their ships from the inside. Ryan emerged from the ship's engineering section, his clothes dirty and his face tired but triumphant. Admiral Carl Hayes was waiting for him, along with a team of engineers eager to hear what he had discovered. Admiral Ryan said, his voice hoarse from months of hiding. I've been inside their fleet for 8 months. I know everything about how their ships work, how their weapons function, and most importantly, how to turn their own technology against them. Carl studied the young engineer's face. Ryan had always been brilliant, but there was something different about him now. His eyes held a cold determination that hadn't been there before. What did you do to their ships? Ryan smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. I've been placing what they call system updates into their computer networks. Small changes that they thought were routine maintenance. But these updates are actually viruses that I designed to activate when their ships try to use their weapons. You've been sabotaging their entire fleet? Carl asked in amazement. Not just their fleet, Ryan replied. Every ship that came to Earth had communication links with the rest of their empire. My viruses have been spreading through their networks for months. By now, they've infected ships across 3 galaxies. The scope of what Ryan had accomplished was staggering. While the aliens had been preparing for their hunt, a single human engineer had been systematically undermining their entire technological infrastructure. But the sabotage was just the beginning. Captain Nicole Turner commanded the newly formed Earth Pursuit fleet from the bridge of what had once been a Zephrian warship. The alien vessel had been captured intact and modified with human improvements. Now, it was faster, stronger, and deadlier than its original designers had ever intended.
Navigation.
Set course for the Proxima system, Nicole ordered. Intelligence reports indicate a Zephrian supply depot there. It's time to take this war to them. The pursuit fleet consisted of 20 captured alien ships, each one modified and improved by human engineers. But more importantly, each ship was crewed by humans who had learned to think like predators. The prey had become the hunter. They were hungry for revenge. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker commanded the ground forces aboard Nicole's ship. His soldiers were volunteers, men and women who had lost family and friends in the initial alien attack. They had trained for months in captured alien equipment, learning to use the enemy's own technology against them. Remember, Steve told his troops as they prepared for their first off-world mission? The aliens think they're the ultimate predators. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to give up. The Proxima Supply Depot was a massive space station orbiting the red dwarf star. It was supposed to be heavily defended, but when the human fleet arrived, they found the station's defenses were mysteriously offline. Ryan's viruses had done their work perfectly. The attack was swift and brutal. Human forces boarded the station using captured alien technology, but fighting with human tactics. The Zephirian defenders had been trained to fight other Zephirians, who followed predictable patterns of warfare. They had no idea how to deal with humans who seemed to ignore all the rules of civilized combat. Sector 7 is secure, Steve reported over the radio. We've captured their computer core intact. Aliens are surrendering faster than we can process them. Nicole smiled as she watched the tactical display. The mighty Zephrian Empire was crumbling not because humans had better technology, but because they had better ideas. Excellent work, Colonel. Prepare the captured intel for transmission to Earth. Command will want to know about the other supply depots. The information they captured was beyond valuable. Contained the locations of every Zephrian military installation, supply depot, and colony world across 3 galaxies. More importantly, it contained the access codes that would allow Ryan's viruses to spread even further through their networks. Dr. Linda Brooks studied the captured data from her laboratory on Earth. The intelligence windfall was enormous, but what excited her most was the psychological profile of Zephirian society. She had been right about their fundamental weakness. They had become too dependent on their technological superiority. They've been the dominant species for so long that they've forgotten how to adapt, Linda explained to the military commanders. During a video conference, every aspect of their society is built around the idea that they're invincible. When that belief is shattered, their entire civilization becomes vulnerable. Admiral Carl Hayes leaned forward in his chair. Saying we can win this war? I'm saying we've already won it, Linda replied. They just don't know it yet. Every day that passes, more of their ships are infected with Ryan's viruses. Every battle we fight teaches us more about their weaknesses while they learn nothing. About our strengths, they're fighting a war they can't win because they don't understand what they're really fighting against. The truth of Linda's words became clear over the following weeks. Human forces struck at Zephrian targets across 3 galaxies, using captured ships and stolen intelligence. Each victory made the next battle easier, as more alien technology fell into human hands and more of their weaknesses were exposed. The Zephrian Empire, which had ruled for 10,000 years, found itself fighting a war unlike anything they had ever experienced. Their enemies didn't follow the rules of warfare. They used unconventional tactics, improvised weapons, and seemed to thrive on chaos and desperation. Worst of all, they were learning and adapting faster than the Zephrians could respond. On Zephr Prime, High Commander Veltar received reports of defeat after defeat. Human forces were moving through Zephrian space like a plague, destroying everything in their path. But they weren't just destroying, they were capturing, learning, and growing stronger with every victory. How many worlds have we lost? Council Leader Mordith asked, his voice barely a whisper. 47 colonies have gone silent, Veltar replied. Our fleet strength has been reduced by 60%. The humans are using our own ships against us, and somehow they've made them more effective than when we built them. The most terrifying part was that the humans weren't just winning battles, they were evolving. Each engagement taught them something new about Zephrian technology and tactics. They were becoming more dangerous with every passing day, transforming from prey into the most deadly predators the galaxy had ever seen. War Prime Kethver, if he had still been alive, would have recognized the truth. The great hunt had indeed begun. But the Zephrians weren't the hunters anymore. They had become the prey, and their hunters were relentless, adaptable, and absolutely merciless. The empire that had sought a challenge had found one. Unfortunately for them, it was a challenge. They could never win. The final battle lasted only 6 days. By the time it began, the Zephrian Empire was already broken. Their fleets were infected with human viruses, their colonies were in rebellion, and their leaders were hiding in deep space bunkers. What remained of their military was gathered at Zephr Prime, their capital world. For one last desperate stand, Admiral Carl Hayes stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Vengeance. Watching the massive Zephrian home fleet through the main viewport, 2,000 alien warships surrounded their capital world, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history.
Oh.
It should have been an impossible enemy to defeat. A signal from the Ghost Fleet, reported Communications Officer Amy Carter. Now promoted after her service on the original Intrepid, all ships are in position and ready for final assault. Carl nodded. The Ghost Fleet had grown from a few dozen disguised civilian ships to over 500 vessels. Each one was a captured Zephirian warship that had been improved and modified. By human engineers, they were faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything the aliens had ever built. "Open a channel to the Zephirian home fleet," Carl ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing High Commander Veltar on the bridge of his flagship. The alien leader looked tired and defeated, his elegant features marked by months of constant retreat and failure. "Admiral Hayes," Veltar said, his voice heavy with resignation, "we request terms for surrender." Carl studied the alien commander's face. 6 months ago, this same being had belonged to an empire that viewed humans as hunting animals. Now he was begging for mercy. "There are no terms," Carl replied coldly. "Your empire chose to hunt us. Now we hunt you." "Please," Veltar pleaded. "We made a mistake. We understand that now. Your species is clearly superior. We offer complete submission to human authority." "Too late," Carl said, and closed the channel. The battle began with Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker's special forces attacking from within the Zephirian fleet itself. For months, human infiltration teams had been sneaking aboard alien ships, hiding in cargo holds and maintenance tunnels. When the fighting started, they struck from inside the enemy fleet, sabotaging ships and causing chaos. Captain Nicole Turner led the main assault, commanding a squadron of modified Zephirian dreadnoughts. The alien ships fired everything they had, but their weapons were useless. Ryan's viruses had infected their targeting systems, their shield generators, and their weapon controls. Half their shots missed completely, and the other half were too weak to penetrate human defenses. "Their entire fleet is compromised," Nicole reported to Carl. "The viruses are working perfectly. They can't hit what they can't target." Dr. Alex Thompson watched the battle from his mobile laboratory ship, monitoring the effectiveness of the frequency weapons. The sonic devices were now built into every human vessel, capable of disrupting alien shields and hulls from hundreds of miles away. The Zephirians' own technology had become their weakness. "Admiral, I'm reading massive system failures across their fleet," Alex reported. "Their ships are shutting down one by one. The viruses are spreading faster than they can contain them." Zephirian home fleet, which had seemed so impressive just hours before, was collapsing like a house of cards. Ships that had conquered galaxies were drifting helpless in space, their crews trapped inside vessels that no longer obeyed their commands. The mighty Zephirian Empire was dying not from superior firepower, but from human cleverness. Engineer Pete Williams commanded the captured teams that boarded the disabled alien vessels. His job was to secure the ships and their crews, but more importantly, to gather the final pieces of Zephirian technology. Every ship captured made humanity stronger and brought them closer to complete domination of the galaxy. "This is incredible," Pete transmitted to the fleet. Their computer systems contained the locations of every Zephirian world, every military base, every secret facility. "We now know more about their empire than they do." The ground battle for Zephr Prime was even more one-sided than the space engagement. Sergeant Kelly Murphy led the assault on the planet's capital city using tactics that the aliens had never seen before. Human forces didn't attack in neat formations or follow predictable patterns. They struck from everywhere and nowhere, using the enemy's own infrastructure against them. "The aliens are trying to surrender faster than we can accept their surrenders," Kelly reported from the steps of the Imperial Palace. "They're throwing down their weapons and begging for mercy. Some of them are actually crying." Dr. Linda Brooks had been right about the psychological weakness of Zephirian society. Species that had never known defeat simply couldn't cope with the reality of total failure. Their entire civilization was built on the belief that they were superior to all other life forms. When that belief was shattered, they had nothing left to fight for. The final moment came when human forces captured the Imperial Council chambers. Council leader Mordeth, the supreme ruler of 3 galaxies, was found hiding in a supply closet, trembling with fear. The being who had approved the hunting of humanity was now reduced to a quivering wreck. Admiral Carl Hayes stood in the council chambers, looking at the captured alien leaders. These were the beings who had planned to hunt his species for sport, who had viewed humans as nothing more than entertaining prey. Now they knelt before him, begging for their lives. "Your empire is finished," Carl told them. "Your fleets are destroyed, your colonies are captured, and your people are defeated. But we're not going to kill you. That would be too easy." Mordeth looked up with desperate hope in his large dark eyes. "Then ... you will spare us." Carl's expression was cold as ice. "We're going to do something worse. We're going to let you live to see what your empire becomes under human rule. Every world you once controlled will serve humanity now. Every species you once dominated will see you kneeling before us. Your legacy will be as the empire that awakened humanity and taught us to conquer the stars." The truth of Carl's words became clear in the following months. The human fleet, now reinforced with thousands of captured Zephrian vessels, spread across 3 galaxies like an unstoppable wave. Every world that had once bowed to Zephrian rule now found itself under human control. But the humans didn't rule like the Zephrians had. They were smarter, more adaptable, and far more ruthless when necessary. Dr. Rachel Stone, Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, stood before the assembled representatives of 100 species. The council chambers on the neutral world of Harmony were packed with delegates who had come to witness the transfer of power. Behind Rachel, holographic displays showed the final statistics of the war. The Zephrian Empire, which ruled for 10,000 years, is extinct, Rachel announced to the silent chamber. It took humanity 18 months to completely destroy a civilization that spanned 3 galaxies. Let this serve as a lesson to anyone who might consider threatening Earth or its colonies. A delegate from the Centauri Federation raised a tentative hand. "Ambassador Stone, what are humanity's intentions regarding the former Zephrian territories?" Rachel smiled, but it wasn't a warm expression. "We will govern them as we see fit. The species that once served the Zephrians will now serve humanity. Those who cooperate will be treated fairly. Those who resist will share the Zephrians' fate." Another delegate, this one from the Rigel Commonwealth, spoke up nervously. "And what of those worlds that had no involvement in the Zephrian Empire? What are your intentions toward neutral species?" "Simple," Rachel replied. "Us, and we won't threaten you. The Zephrians made the mistake of viewing humans as prey. They wanted a challenge, so we gave them extinction. We have no desire to conquer peaceful species, but we will not tolerate any threat to human interests." Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the human patrol fleet, stood on the bridge of his new ship watching a former Zephrian colony world. The planet's new human governor was already implementing changes that would benefit both species. Unlike the Zephrians, humans understood that cooperation was more effective than domination. "It's amazing how different everything looks now," his first officer commented. Jake nodded, remembering the terror he had felt when the aliens first captured his ship 2 years ago. They wanted to hunt us because they thought we were interesting. Prey, they were right about one thing. We are interesting. Yet they forgot that the most interesting prey is the kind that becomes the predator. On Earth, monuments were being built to commemorate the war that had changed everything. But the humans weren't celebrating their victory over the Zephrians. They were preparing for whatever challenge might come next. They had learned that the universe was full of dangers, and they intended to be ready for all of them. The Zephrian Empire was gone, wiped from existence by a species they had underestimated. The few surviving Zephrians lived as refugees on human-controlled worlds, serving as a reminder of what happened to those who threatened humanity. War Prime Kethver's final message had been prophetic. The humans were indeed something dangerous. They were a species that could turn any challenge into an opportunity, any threat into a weapon, and any hunt into an extinction. The galaxy now belonged to humanity, and they intended to keep it that way. The hunt was over.